Hello, all, and welcome. We are back with another episode in the series AI and the Workplace. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most important conversations shaping the future of education and workforce development: how we scale AI and HI literacy in meaningful, sustainable ways. Joining me is Dr. Guido Minaya, CEO and Chief Learning Officer of Minaya Learning Global Solutions. And also returning to the 5-Minute University podcast is Angelo Biasi, founder of Solvably and Credably.ai, two platforms at the forefront of scalable, personalized learning and skills verification. Angelo just returned from the ASU+GSV Summit in San Diego, where he met with leaders from top companies and organizations. We're here to unpack what he learned and what it means for the future of education and upskilling. Stay tuned to learn more. Angelo, welcome back to the podcast. And Guido, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dario. Oh, Angelo, it's great to have you back on our podcast show here. And my goodness, it's been a phenomenal few weeks with the Edison Awards, meeting Jensen Huang, meeting Dr. Michael Crow from ASU. Then you have the opportunity to fly out to San Diego and go to the ASU GSV conference. So what an incredible couple of weeks. For those that aren't familiar with it, ASU GSV is like the Super Bowl for ed tech. There's so many questions, Angelo. What were some of the big picture themes or takeaways from this year's summit?
Yeah, Guido and Dario, first of all, thank you so much for having me back. It's a great pleasure to speak on your podcast. I enjoy it every time I'm invited. I look forward to it. And yeah, the ASU GSV conference, I've been going for now almost 10 years, I believe. And it is the largest conference that I know of with the most accessible decision makers, attendance of movers and shakers in the industry. I believe 7 to 10,000 people, and it sells out every year. It's a wonderful congregation of just the who's who in the industry, and this one did not disappoint. One of the biggest themes that I noticed was AI's dual role in both disrupting and enabling education. I had the unique opportunity to interview Michael Moe. He's one of the founders of ASU GSV. I'm so excited to learn. All right, what are the thought leaders saying about it? I see this as the greatest education and workforce transformation of our lifetime, but how are other people defining it? And he said it best. He said, we're really in a moment of a great chaos and dynamic opportunity. Chaos as in the world is changing at unprecedented pace, which is creating a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, and dynamic because that same chaos is presenting enormous opportunity. And he put it best by saying, the question is, how do we harness the chaos and convert that into innovation and compounding opportunity? And he sees AI, and I agree with him 100%. That's why I'm quoting him so much, as the catalyst for this change, but also everyone at that conference starting to talk about HI, human intelligence. There's just this growing awareness that we can't just automate. It's elevating our human thinking along our AI capabilities. And that's where I'm encouraged to see the conversation leading to, which is exactly, as Gretzky would say, we're right where the puck is going with Solvably and Credably.ai, and recently CertLab of supporting AI literacy, human intelligence, using AI as a tool to create innovation, which drives impact across students and professionals. Very, very exciting time. And this conference did not disappoint in bringing together the thought leaders to act on it.
Right. How exciting. Just stepping back, you reminded me of one of the comments and points and insights that we got from Jensen Huang at the Edison Awards was that, he looks at the market where there is no market, right? And then he starts looking at, all right, what's the potential? And then maybe 10 years later, boom, NVIDIA is in the perfect position. And then you compare that to Dr. Michael Crow, right, with the ASU GSV conference, where he 10, 15 years ago looked at it and said, you know what, we're going to need to be at the forefront of where technology and education meet. We need to start this conference now so we continue to stay at the forefront. And now to what it's evolved to, right? So, wow, incredible that now with AI and with education, the intersection that we're seeing, that's just such a tremendous point in time. So you had some meetings with major players. And what are these organizational leaders most focused on when it comes to AI and future readiness?
Yeah, and to kind of dovetail off of what you were saying earlier, just meeting Jensen Huang and listening to him speak, I was most fascinated when he said that it took, I think it was 3 years, Guido, that they were doing everything the opposite way of everyone else in the space, and for 3 years, most would probably give up or chalk that up to a learned experience or failure or what have you. But the level of resilience and patience that even though they were going against the stream, as the salmon swimming around, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And sure enough, that paid huge dividends, both literally and figuratively. But to go back to your second question of companies, yeah, we had a very packed schedule of over 24 meetings in 4 days. It was really fantastic. And the thing that most of these executives and companies are dealing with, they're now at that moment of the how. So I would like to probably say the last couple of years, the last 12 to 24 months, or even further, 36 months, it was all about the what and the why. Okay, this is coming. We know we need to do this. It's not going away. This is why it's important. We get that. But what they're really struggling with now is the how. How do we systemically empower our entire workforce? How do we go beyond automation and drive a culture of innovation and AI empowerment? How do we do that? How do we do that with evidence? How do we do that at scale? And most importantly, how do we do that with measurable outcomes? That's really where we're at. And once again, I'm probably going to say this 20 times during this podcast, and your listeners are probably going to get sick of it, but just being where the puck is going. And as Jensen Wang, took 3 years they were where the puck, they might not have seen it at certain times, or maybe they did the entire time by doing everything the opposite. Or like he said, yeah, there's three ways to do, two ways to do it. Everyone else did it this way. We did it the other way. Come to find out it was wrong for 3 years, but it certainly was right following those 3 years. But having that patience and that resilience to, with solvably and credibly as we're doing, as you know very well, systemically training human intelligence using AI as a tool to solve for real world problems through innovation. And that's where the Edison Awards came into play, where innovation at our core is going to be what really separates the winners and losers in the next 1, 2, 5, 50 years. And specifically, what we're doing not only with Solvably as an active learning platform, but now credibly as an authentic and AI powered assessment engine that assesses and evaluates and certifies specific competencies, career trajectories, and even deliverable feasibility. It's quite extraordinary. But I would say, just to answer that question, specifically, it's the how. And most companies are now struggling with the, okay, we get the what, we get the why, we know the when is yesterday. For those who aren't there yet, well, you might want to get on the bus soon. It's now focused around the how.
Right, right. No, that's it's an exciting time, right? And either you've jumped in, you're about to jump in, or hopefully you've got the type of influences to make you jump in. And you talked about AI and HI, human intelligence, right? And of course, it's so exciting when we've seen that in action through the various sessions that we've had with companies and organizations. But what does blending those two literacies, AI and HI, look like in practice from your perspective?
Yes, just to recap, using human intelligence and AI as a tool, I think Elon Musk says it best. We've got our education system all wrong. We teach students how to use a screwdriver, how to use a wrench. They quite don't know that in context. Tell me how an engine works. Let's take that engine apart. And in the process, we'll learn how a screwdriver and a wrench works. And that's where I believe I agree with them. We've got it a little bit backwards. So looking at everything through the lens of problem solving, but specifically human intelligence. I've got twin 17-year-olds, and I often wonder, with this AI infused future of uncertainty, what jobs will be available, what will not be available, where will we humans fit in, how can we best prepare for it now? And it's there that I go back to thousands of years ago when the cavemen had to get together to solve a problem. They would go out, and then club dinner, and with the club that they had just invented, or they invented the wheel to solve for a problem. I assume that they didn't do that unilaterally. There was probably a team of cave people that got together and invented the wheel to solve for a specific problem. Well, today and 2,000 years from now, I don't see that changing very much. And I often instruct students and professionals that the person who can solve a problem the best in this room has the greatest chance for survival and thriving in this AI infused future. But there's a magic that happens, Guido, and you've seen it. You just talked a little bit about it. There's a magic that happens when you're bringing together a team. That team is looking at the same problem, bringing different constraints, sharing what they know, different perspectives and experience to contribute to solving for this challenge and creating an innovation that is entirely defendable. That cannot happen. That magic cannot happen with an Ozempic pill of AI, of typing in a question and getting an answer. Certainly you can do that, and it's very tempting to do that and even rely on that 100%. That's why I call it the Ozempic pill of AI. But the magic that happens in a collaborative environment where you're going through a scaffolded process of problem solving, of design thinking, you're each contributing, you're each thinking critically, you're being creative, thinking out of the box. And we're facilitating that in a lot of cases, really squeezing the juice and challenging each one as well as the collective. I often say if you did the same escape room 3 days in a row, you would have three completely different experiences, three completely different outcomes. And that just doesn't happen with typing in a question or a prompt into AI, which I'm really proud of, because we're always asking ourselves, how defendable is this solution? And then you look at the LinkedIn top core skills for the workforce. You look at the World Economic Forum, and what's at the top? Analytical thinking, number one. Creative thinking, number five. Problem solving, adaptability. Those are really not AI powered skills or competencies. Those are human competencies, human intelligence. And I'm just proud of the fact that our platform drives that human intelligence with a process and AI as a tool to create innovations that not only solve problems but drive measurable business impact.
Right. Yeah. And I think what's been exciting to see is you've got the actual process and you've got the evidence in how to measure impact, and we can evaluate the deliverables. And I think really it's a phenomenal step forward. And what we found is that once you're through that, now you've entered into like almost like a new dimension of, okay, now how can I apply it to this issue and that problem and this challenge? And we're providing such a direction on how to get through that first step. But then what's so exciting is what does step 2, step 10, step 1,000 look like for that individual, for that team, and for that company. That's what's going to be very, very, very exciting to see.
My goodness, what a conversation. I would love to continue, but that's going to be our time. Dr. Minaya, Angelo, thank you very much for this amazing conversation. Be sure to listen in next week as the conversation continues with Dr. Minaya and Angelo Biasi. Until next time.